Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens. We are honored to have with us today Lindsey Simmons, who is the Democratic candidate for Missouri's 4th Congressional District. Lindsey, you graduated from Harvard Law School in 2015 and worked as a legislative assistant in the Missouri House, a law clerk in the Missouri Attorney General's office, and as a legal fellow in the U.S. Senate. Thank you so much for your service to our country, and thank you so much for being here with us today. Lindsey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself
Thank
and
you.
what inspired you to go into politics and public service, and how has your journey been like so far?
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for doing this. I think it is amazing how so many young people have stepped forward and gotten engaged in their communities and just are really invested in learning and being involved and using their voice and their own power. So I think this is awesome. This is like making me feel old. I'm 33. My very first election that I was able to vote in for president was for President Barack Obama in 2008. And that's when I was 21 years old. And we felt like, we were the young kids coming in and like making some really great changes. And that was a really exciting thing to be a part of because you were filled with so much hope and excitement and just this feeling that there was so much potential out there to do really great things that helped people. And that's what I have always wanted to do in one way or another. And there's so many different ways that you can serve your community. And that's one of the reasons that I went to law school, where understanding the law and having the tools and resources to help people navigate the legal system is a tremendous way to help serve your community and to help serve so many different populations of people. I've represented veterans. I've had the opportunity to work with wrongfully convicted people and help secure the release. We have worked with hurricane and flood victims to help them navigate FEMA. And it's just been a really rewarding career. And that is how I really intended for most of my public service to really be, was in that space. And when my husband, who is a currently deployed soldier, had his last deployment, we noticed that national security was in a pretty bad state, and in large part because we have a pretty reckless administration. And so I decided to take the tools that I had from growing up here in Missouri and from going to law school, and I decided, if I'm not willing to step up now, how can I ask somebody else to? And so we decided to run for office. But there are so many ways that a person can serve. You definitely do not have to run for office to serve your community and to serve it well. And public service comes in all different shapes and sizes. I like to think that my husband is doing the best kind of public service, serving in the United States military. So big shout out to anyone who is interested in teaching, who's interested in volunteering, who's interested in social work or healthcare or law enforcement. All of those things we need so badly. So I hope that some people out there are thinking about how they can do the best with the tools that they have, because if we all do that, we will be in a much better place.
And we thank you so much and your husband for his service to our country. And as someone who has been a part of public service for so long and who has already served and been a part of the political landscape, what would you say is your favorite part about the political landscape?
The people. I love getting to know people and to fight for people, even people who don't like me and even people who disagree with me. Because I tell you what, when you talk to a person who thinks that that you're not going to want to listen to them, or you come from very different backgrounds maybe, but you actually sit and you listen and you hear their story, that person has experiences that have happened to them. That person has experience to share with you that you can learn from. That person has a soul. That person has probably been through some pain. And if you can see them as a human first, right, instead of a lot of the toxic terms that continue to be thrown around in today's political discourse, if you see them as a person first, you really can come to common ground. You can help them, And that is something that I really learned first as an attorney, especially as a defense attorney who kind of would just get assigned to clients. They didn't choose me first. And so I remember my first clients were when I was in law school in Boston, and I am from a farm in mid-Missouri, and so they looked at me like, this girl literally came off the turnip truck, and what is she doing here, and how can she possibly help me? But you know what? A lot of folks went to schools that weren't funded very well. And a lot of folks had parents that were working 3 and 4 jobs and weren't home with them too much because they were just trying to make ends meet. And a lot of people were like, I'm just doing this to like try and get my family by. I'll do anything for my family. And I think, you know, that's a universal experience in some ways. And so I learned really early on in my career as an attorney that you have to just people first. That's what it should always be about, people first.
And Lindsey, what is your overall vision for District 4?
So I love the 4th District of Missouri. Even when I was in law school, and you'll appreciate this, St. Louis, I was in law school in 2013 when the Red Sox were playing the Cardinals, and I had myself tossed out of a bar near Fenway because I had on a bunch of Cardinals gear, and this Missouri girl was not backing down. And so anywhere I've ever been, people know how steadfast I am, not only in my love for the Cardinals, but just for Missouri in general. Like, I love my home, and my home's been put through a lot. We've been going through a depression here, an economic depression, for 20 years. And that's something people don't talk about. In my home, public schools before COVID were down to 4 days a week, because in rural Missouri, we can't afford the 5th. Our hospitals were already closing, which gets more attention than the schools certainly do. Over half of the people in the 4th District of Missouri live in food deserts, which means that they're more than 10 miles away from a grocery store. And so what I see for the future for my home and for my community is a future where people can afford to live and thrive and have access to education and to healthcare and to economic opportunity. All of those things are fundamental human rights that for many years have really been denied, and we've watched disintegrate before our very eyes out here. The 4th District also has a really unique opportunity, I think, because we have the Missouri River, we have a number of lakes and other water resources. We have some of the best farmlands in the entire country. We're home to 2 military installations, the University of Missouri. And so I think we are the perfect spot to capitalize on our natural resources, on our national security resources, and on our educational resources to look into adaptive climate policy and solutions, including sustainable farming techniques, renewable energy techniques, and other kinds of green technologies. I think that this is kind of the perfect groundswell of opportunity exists right here in the 4th District of Missouri. And, there's a huge demand for those kinds of adaptive policies to help see us into the future. And someone somewhere is going to be at the forefront of that. And I think that it should be the 4th District of Missouri. And that would bring a ton of jobs. It would bring a ton of revenue into our communities, and that would help our schools, and it would help our families, and it would help keep our hospitals open. And so we could be the district really leading into this next place with environmental and sustainable change. And it would also help us economically in a really big way. And so that is overall what I would really hope to see happen here in the next couple of years.
And Lindsey, if you are elected, what are the 3 biggest issues you want to bring change to?
Well, I think I just said them all. The overall big issue really is making sure that we are taking care of our family farmers out here, agriculture, sustainable farming techniques. It's making sure that working people have a livable wage, that they have housing and healthcare and education. And it's really, again, putting people first, that in every policy that we are doing, we are making sure that people are at the forefront of that conversation, and not profits for corporations and not dividends for shareholders, but living, breathing people are always at the forefront of every policy that we do. And unfortunately, that has not been the case for the 4th District. It really hasn't been the case for the entire state of Missouri either for a very long time. And we have to get back to that.
And I do want to transition over now, as all of us are battling the COVID-19 pandemic. What do you think our country and our states must do differently to better tackle this pandemic and its effects?
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but as a baseline, let's believe in science. Let's listen to doctors. Seems like just a good place to start. The CDC has given out a wealth of guidance really since January on this topic, and we seem to have people in positions of power who are not putting people first, like we've been talking about. They're putting politics and a lot of other things first. And we're in the middle of a global pandemic where we have leadership who has turned wearing a mask into a political statement, even though we know, and public health officials across the country know, that socially distancing and wearing a mask is a preventative healthcare measure that can help us contain the virus. So we need to listen, and we need funding to make sure that people have all of the resources they need, whether it's at hospitals or nursing homes or schools. We have students who are getting very ill because their educational institutions are not able to provide a safe space for them to learn, whether it be because they don't have access to virtual opportunities, which is something that's very true for my district. We lack, you might notice my internet going in and out. I don't even have the greatest internet. So, internet is a real problem here, and is certainly a problem for students trying to virtually learn during this time. The other piece of it is that we have to have people who have a real plan. And, the state of Missouri certainly hasn't had a plan. The White House itself has put out reports showing how we continue to have increased infection rates and increased hospitalization rates. We certainly don't have a nationwide plan. And lately, what is very alarming to me especially is this idea that the plan is going to be herd immunity, or infecting 60 to 70% of our population. It's over 200 million people with a deadly virus for which there is no cure and for which there is no vaccine. And that is not a plan. That is a surrender, and it's unconscionable. And so I think we know what we need to do. We just need people in positions of power to do it.
And in midst of a pandemic, in midst of all the negative things that are going on, I think it's always important to sort of think back to some of the positives that there are. And Lindsey, I do want to ask, what are some of the current strengths of our country that you would like to grow?
Well, I think, again, just like repeating myself to you, I think the best strength that we have are the people. There's so much good out there in the world, and I think that we can forget that. But as I've been on the campaign trail, I have met so many strangers who I never would have met otherwise, who are doing everything they can to help their community. And it's not even about it being political. With COVID-19, a lot of seniors can't leave their homes. And so in one of our communities in the Fourth, there's a group of high school students who know that they're at a lesser risk, but are more mobile and able to get out, and they've been delivering groceries to folks in their community. I think that is amazing. We have a number of military spouses who have stepped up throughout the generations to help our campaign. We have members of the military community in multiple countries around the world who have reached out to help us continue fighting for their families. One of the big reasons that I'm in this campaign is because military families like mine don't have a voice. A lot of people don't know that there's contaminated drinking water on almost every military base in the United States. That's not a political issue, that is a public health issue. And to see so many other military families saying, hey, yes, finally, that has been really empowering. And I have to say, I am really optimistic about what we're going to be able to do moving forward, because I feel like we're finally at a place where we know that equality is just necessary. It isn't worth debating anymore. Like, we need to be treating people equal. We know that healthcare is a human right. We know that a living wage is so important for so many different people. And we know that these are things that we can do when we work together and we use our voice collectively. So I have been really encouraged by really the solidarity among so many different groups of people, different ages and races and genders and nationalities, and even political persuasions, who are saying, like, enough is enough. Corporations have really done a number on this country, and we all know that we need to be putting people first. And so that's what's been the most inspiring for me to see. And I really believe that that will carry us through. And so I'm very optimistic about what the next few years have in store.
And you talked about how a few youth in the fourth district who had a better chance of immunity against the pandemic were delivering some of the groceries to people around the district. And continuing on that, how can more teens and more youth be more involved and be instrumental in bringing change to their future?
Well, I think that everyone has a talent or a skill set, right? So it isn't that you need to do this one thing. The thing that you are going to be the best at is the thing that you love doing the most, and channeling that into change. So if you're an artist, you should draw and you should make art about change and about the things that you want to see, and you should share that with the world. If you are a really great writer, then you should write into your local newspaper, start a blog, you know tweet. Like, those things matter. If you're really interested in starting your own business, that is an amazing way to create change, so go do that. If you're maybe you're unsure, maybe you're like, I see so much wrong, but I don't even know where to start, I would encourage you to think about what keeps you up at night. What is the one thing that it's like, I can't do everything, none of us can do everything, but what is like the one thing you're like, I would really like to work on that. I had a moment like that when I was in middle school. My family's farm would get flooded out almost every year, and I didn't understand why. And I started looking into climate change. This is in the 90s, so. And I went to my library and I paid 5 cents a page, and I printed off the first IPCC report that I had. It wasn't the first one ever, but that I had. And I started studying climate change, and I felt like the thing I could do is understand better environmental law and agriculture so that I could help my own family. And that's what really kind of sent me on this path. I know that there is something like that for every single person, that there's like this one thing you're really great at, or there's this one thing you really care about. And just be honest and authentic to yourself. Do not feel like there's one right way to make change, or there's one right way to get involved. It needs to be your way, and in a way that is authentic and true to you, because I promise you, you have amazing skills and you have amazing talents that the world desperately needs to see. So please share them with us, because we need you.
Lindsey, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with us. And thank you so much for your time today and answering all of our questions.
Thank you.